From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
We've got the latest information now on a shooting early Thursday morning at the Reno Casino in South Billings. All the details there in just a few minutes. And of course, a big investigation where federal law enforcement officials are telling us they're getting to the bottom of a multi-state drug trafficking ring. More details from the U.S. Attorney General in just a few minutes. And fresh ice in Billings just in time for the winter sports season. We'll have more on that in just a few minutes as a new public-private partnership here in town could bring us some more ice space. Good morning and welcome back to Montana This Morning on this Friday, November 15th. I'm Augusta McDonnell here with Miller Robson.
Hey,
How
good morning,
are you?
everybody. Good morning, Augusta.
Yeah, good morning, and a good morning to the freshman class in Washington, D.C., who is behind. There they go,
taking a photo.
Their picture. And we saw the new U.S. Montana rep, Troy Downing, a few minutes ago, wandering in to get his photo taken. But yeah, there's the new class of representatives in D.C. They're in town for meet and greets ahead of the transition coming up in January. Where they'll all take their seats, and of course President-elect Trump at that time as well will be the new incoming administration.
All right.
There you go.
There you go.
Looks like a nice morning in D.C. as well.
Yeah, nice. Not too bad a morning here. It's very cold out there. It's quiet, but it's kind of like the calm before the storm, especially western side of the state where we do have that winter storm that's going to make some bit of an impact. How much snow could we get here in Billings? If you missed out earlier this morning, we mentioned probably, I'm thinking about a quarter of an inch by the time we get into Saturday morning. And we'll tell you about that winter storm and the second winter storm that could come in the early part of next week. But let's take a step back in time. Yesterday turned out to be a pretty nice day. Got windy at times, though, yesterday. 58, so a good 12 degrees above the norm. We're not going to see that moving forward for the next couple of days as we cool down with this winter system. Top gusts yesterday of 41 miles an hour. You can see it's very dry start out there for the month and for the year. And look at the snow totals. Man, we're deep in the hole. Now, we do have some snow heading our way. It's not going to make much of a dent. The question is, how much moisture are we going to get off of that snow? And we'll talk about those totals coming up, too. As we wake up to our full moon, our beaver moon, that hit its peak earlier this morning. We're at 31 at the airport, so we've warmed up just a bit. Feels like 26. Winds out of the northeast at about 5 miles an hour. Across the area, you can start to see those clouds moving in from the north or southwest where that area of low pressure is coming in. Temperatures right now mainly in the 20s. It's quiet right now, but this is what's coming. We do have a potential winter storm. We'll break that down for you with the main forecast coming up.
All right, Miller, thanks for tracking all those details. We've got some winter weather just around the corner. Here we go. And now we've got the latest details on a story we first brought you yesterday morning. Billings police are investigating after 3 people are shot outside a Billings bar, leaving 1 dead. Our Charlie Kleps was on the scene and joins us now with the details on a complicated investigation.
That incident happened here in the parking lot of the Reno Club located on Calhoun Lane. And as you can see, as of Thursday afternoon, law enforcement were still investigating the scene as an argument turned fatal and left many concerned about the amount of firearms involved.
I mean, it is scary. This town is really scary.
As Billings police cleaned up the most recent fatal shooting Thursday, the sounds were still haunting Jennifer Adams.
Then we just heard a ton of screaming,
Screaming paired with gunshots.
And what was really scary is we heard somebody screaming with like that, god-awful agony and pain. And that's when we knew.
Shortly before 2 a.m., police say a 46-year-old man opened fire at a man and woman, hitting both. The woman then pulled a gun of her own and attempted to shoot back. Then a 25-year-old man who wasn't initially involved allegedly pulled a gun and fired at the original shooter, hitting and killing him. Jennifer Adams heard it from her nearby house.
I've never had it that close, like in my backyard.
Police Chief Rich St. John says the parties knew each other.
A simple argument does not need to escalate to that.
The Reno Club posted its own statement Thursday afternoon alleging the incident stemmed from an abusive relationship, a situation St. John says is disheartening, but also raises some big questions about concealed carry laws.
And then here we are on a Wednesday night at a bar and we have a lot of handguns.
Montana has fairly loose gun restrictions. Gun owners can carry a concealed weapon without a permit in most places, with a few government and school exceptions. There are, however, limitations when a person is under the influence.
Anywhere you got, you got firearms, you got alcohol, that's not a good combination. So we're very, very concerned with that.
As for the 25-year-old shooter, questions remain about any charges he may face.
It's a homicide investigation, and potentially we could be looking at criminal charges if we can't establish, in fact, it was in self-defense or defense of others.
A shocking night that St. John says is completely unnecessary.
I think we're better than that. We need to be better than that.
In Billings, Charlie Kleps, MTN News.
Charlie, thank you so much. And in Cody, Wyoming, state, local, and federal law enforcement groups have arrested a 64-year-old man after the discovery of homemade explosives and illegal firearms. The man, Randall Thomas Bailey, was arrested earlier this week on separate felony charges of burglary, stalking, and possessing an explosive device. Police then obtained search warrants for his home on Musser Road just east of town to ensure public safety. They say they found multiple homemade explosive devices, illegal weapons, and firearm equipment. Authorities say there's no threat to the community, but do ask residents and the public to avoid the area. We'll bring you more details as we learn them. And an interesting twist in the ongoing legal battle between the families of the victims of the Sandy Hook massacre and Alex Jones, who's claimed the deadly day was a hoax. Thursday, satirical publication The Onion won Jones's Infowars platform in a court-ordered auction. But now Jones is calling that sale into question, and a judge wants to take a look. Here's Jared Hill with more.
In what started as a joke turned a chance for healing, Thursday, satirical publication The Onion won a bid for controversial public figure Alex Jones's Infowars platform.
We're going to make it into a bigger and better thing. We want in a couple of years for people to be like, oh, Infowars, that funny website, instead of like that horrible place of, Funhouse Mirror horrors.
Ben Collins is CEO of The Onion, which has spoofed Jones and his conspiracy theories for years. But one of Jones' most notorious spins landed the tycoon in legal trouble. In 2022, the families of the Sandy Hook massacre won more than $1.4 billion in a defamation judgment against Jones. And this summer, a court ruled his assets, including the media company, had to be sold to compensate those families.
His horrific messaging and attacks and stuff started immediately after the shooting.
Robbie Parker's 6-year-old daughter, Emily, was among the 26 victims killed by the gunman at her Connecticut elementary school in 2012. Jones used a moment of him speaking to the media the day after the shooting to label him a crisis actor and the shooting fake. The new website is expected to work with gun violence prevention group Everytown for Gun Safety.
Humor is one of the most effective ways to reach people and to actually combat misinformation. And so that's why we're all in.
But last night, Alex Jones argued the sale hadn't actually gone through.
The Onion's everywhere announcing they bought it.
The judge in Jones' bankruptcy case ordered a hearing for next week on how the auction was conducted. Jared Hill, CBS News.
Members of the victims' families waived part of the money Jones owed them to help with the sale of the Infowars platform. And Montana's congressional leadership is calling on the Bureau of Indian Affairs to do more to address growing crime in Indian country. This follows the recent shooting that claimed the life of an 8-year-old boy who was caught in the crossfire of a shootout in Lame Deer. Also, the investigation into the disappearance of a 13-year-old girl on the Crow Reservation. In a letter to the BIA, Senator Steve Daines and Representative Matt Rosendale said the crisis is being exacerbated by a severe shortage of personnel. They also said tribal officers are operating without body cameras because the resources have not been delivered by the BIA. They also say several tribes have said there's a lack of transparency over funding for self-determination law enforcement contracts. The two wrote that this demands swift and immediate action. Meanwhile, federal authorities believe they've gotten to the bottom of a large-scale multi-state drug trafficking conspiracy centered on the Crow and Northern Cheyenne Indian reservations. As Marcus Kokova reports, the U.S. Attorney's Office held a news conference today to talk about the investigation that's led to dozens of convictions so far.
It's hard to believe that 27 federal convictions can come out of a place as remote as the one I'm in, but that's exactly what investigators and prosecutors are saying has happened.
Today we're announcing that these 27 individuals will be collectively serving over 165 years in federal prison for peddling methamphetamine and fentanyl in Montana.
Those 27 guilty pleas and 27 convictions stem from years of work between local law enforcement and federal agencies to curb cartel activity.
This investigation affirmed two things. One, the state of Montana is not immune, and two, the cartels will find no safe haven in the state of Montana.
The DOJ says the Crow Reservation was the base of operations for multi-million-dollar drug ring activity, an area that came with a unique set of challenges.
Cell phone coverage is an issue down on the reservation. I mean, our cars stand out on reservations.
But it wasn't just money being exchanged for drugs, according to investigators.
So what they would do is take a list, come into town, break into vehicles. They would steal them from different places, and those were exchanged for drugs on the reservation.
Though a handful in this drug trade are known to be still at large fugitives, prosecutors say they're on the hunt. However, supply is just one end of the problem.
Until we start dedicating resources to help prevent people from using drugs in the first place, or to get them treatment before they become drug dealers, we're going to spin and spin and spin on this merry-go-round, and it will never stop.
Marcus Kukova, MTN News.
And it's taken a while, but the Elk Fire that burned near the Wyoming-Montana border is now listed as 100% contained. The fire was believed to have been sparked from lightning back on September 27th. It burned almost 99,000 acres and some structures before finally being extinguished. There were close to 1,000 personnel fighting that fire at one point, a relief for those communities. And Billings has taken the next step towards building a state-of-the-art ice arena at Amen Park. The unique public-private partnership comes on the heels of the failed park spawn last fall, when many voters admitted the city needs the recreational amenities but ultimately chose not to pay for it. Our Isabel Spartz is learning where these funds are now coming from and just who will pay for it.
This space next to Amen Park will soon turn into a recreation campus and will house indoor ice arenas and other various sports courts. Something that's been in the works for years, it hopes to expand hockey opportunities and bring an economic drive to Billings.
Billings could soon see a whole lot more of this. A new nonprofit, the Yellowstone Ice Foundation, announced Thursday they are moving forward with a new ice arena as a part of a larger Amen Park recreation campus.
I really believe it'll compete with the Metro for bringing an economic development to Billings.
And the $12 million two-sheet ice building is already half funded, thanks to a $6 million donation from Signal Peak Energy.
It was time for the private sector to step up and put up the dollars to still allow a portion of this rec center to be built, and we've focused our efforts on bringing and improving hockey and ice sports in Billings.
Still looming on people's minds is the failed park spawn from last year, a $43 million proposal, most of which was earmarked for a large rec center at Amen. But the South Billings Urban Renewal Association says this will be different.
We will not have to run a bond issue. The T-bid from the chamber has stepped up and will help us with any operating deficiency that we have. And so there will be no new taxes to the people.
Instead of one gigantic building with all those different recreational pursuits included, this will be more of a campus feel where it'll be specific building for each specific sport or organization.
That is thanks to a private and public partnership. The new group hopes to break ground on the ice rink in spring. They are beginning a capital campaign to raise the other $6 million. The ice arena will come first with potential new tenants.
We met with an individual from Canada that's very interested in bringing a junior hockey league team to Billings, and so the hockey facility will have seating to hold it. I think it's going to be about 3,000 people.
But Parks and Rec and Sabura will fund the court's building and surrounding area, an estimated $22 million investment. While there is still more work to be done, the city will soon skate into a new future.
I've been working on it for 4 years. Today's a very exciting day to have this happen and going forward with it.
In Billings, Isabel Spartz, MTN News.